All right, here's another full week of surfing, but our first full surf week of 2022. So welcome again. And we have one heck of a solution this week. Oh my God, very, very, very powerful. And I'm sure all of you are going to be extremely, happy, excited, but the energies, the influence, because we do both. We do the influence and we do the solution, the behaviors. We do those towards the end. But the influence isn't all that pleasant. Here's what I mean by that. Look at this. So here's what we have. The overview, the tropical astrology. It's our triangulation chart for those of you who are new. The purple represents the astrology, and it includes the Saturn square Uranus. We're at 2 degrees and waning. We have Pluto conjunct Venus. We've been talking about these two things for quite some time. And we have the new one is Venus Combust. Venus is going to pass by the sun and goes exact around the 8th or 9th. And we'll talk about how that sort of feels like separation anxiety or inability to relate, or same sort of things we talked about with Pluto conjunct Venus, but now just Venus in general gets weaker. So that's giving us the feeling of clinging like fire with other people and how we relate. We're seeing the interconnectedness and knowing that it's almost impossible to live a life of aloneness or separation. And so when they start to become highlighted in the energies, and then you start grappling, frantic, on edge. Separation anxiety is the overall triangulation, because the dream bot, wait till you see this thing. It's quite an experience. It's looking all over the place. It's expecting the worst. It's looking like the shoe's going to drop, and it looks like the end. So it's all related. I put them into 3 different categories, but as you can see, they're very sort of overlapping in each other. So anyway, wait until the end. We're going to put all this stuff together. So the first thing we're going to do is look at the dream bot. Then we're going to step through each day by day for the astrology. And then we'll convert over to the I-Ching and see what it has to say and get into the solution. That, in my opinion, the solution is the most important part of these surf reports, because it's one thing to know what to expect on energies, which this week is frantic and on edge, separation anxiety. But then what do we do about it? What is the behavioral solution? And that is towards the end of the show. All right. So let's go ahead and get started with comments and the dream bot. All right. And if you haven't found us yet anywhere, we're on YouTube and Rumble, but we're also on Telegram. And so first, huge shout out to our Telegram family. So much communication and positive and solution making for a lot of people. Go into Telegram and then click a comment and then go subscribe to the chat room so that you can get involved in those. But also big shout out to the folks who did some New Year's wishes for our family, for our National Dream Center family or surf family. It's Glow A Smile, Not For Me To Say, Brian A, Milos, Northern Lady, Melanie. And gosh, if I forgot anyone, that's a shame on me, but shout out to all the YouTube comments. And what was spectacular, I was sort of mumbling there, sort of spectacular is over on Rumble. We only 27, doesn't sound like a lot of views, but big shout out to all of you for consistently going over there and watching on Rumble, because we just kicked off our first part of monetization. Now, I'm not doing this for the money. Okay. I want to make sure that I say that because I'm doing this as more of my life mission, because I enjoy it and because people are getting benefit out of it, including and especially me. But it is nice to see a platform like Rumble that is not censoring to the extent of YouTube. And we're getting 3 cents. We got 3 cents for last week. And again, not doing this for the money, but and by the way, I'm not going to monetize YouTube, and I haven't. So if you're getting an ad before my videos, that's some shady stuff by YouTube. Doesn't surprise me, but I want you to know I'm not making any money. I never have off of YouTube. But Rumble now, all bets are off. I want to support Rumble. Eventually, when I get shifted over there, they have an ability to do live shows. And so as this thing increases, I might start doing some live feeds over on Rumble. So if you haven't subscribed over there, please do so now. Okay, so big shout out to Scorpbrat05. He says, or she says, liked on YouTube and watching on Rumble. I know a lot of you guys doing that, and I thank you. Brian Adams on YouTube, shout out to him, says, may God give peace of mind to all of you in the new year and beyond. And remember, you are already successful, prosperous, and have everything you need to be happy. Brian's got some great philosophies. And the reason why I put his post down here is because if YouTube was a winner this week, then he would be the winning comment. But YouTube got beat out by Rumble. This is the other thing that is a breakthrough. We had Not For Me to Say got 5 Rumbles, and so beat Brian over on YouTube. Isn't that great? Not that it's a competition, but it's just showing you that Rumble is growing. And so Not For Me to Say says, helping the algorithm on YouTube and Rumble. I'm ready for a change over to 2022. I hope and pray for the NDC CIRF family is prosperous, grateful, joyful, abundant, and healthy. So shout out to you, Not For Me to Say. Congratulations on winning, especially over on Rumble. Thank you, everybody, for comments. And let's get started into the DreamBot. Now, off the top, you see 2022. There's no surprise there, right? Huge surge score. That makes sense. January, there's no surprise there. Big surge score. But what about birthday? That's sort of odd. Now, in my client practice, in my private practice, I've noticed that a lot of my clients actually have a birthday between December and January. So I'm wondering if that just people inclined to this kind of material, astrology, dreams, I-Ching, mysticism, etc., energy work, maybe they're more of those, a higher percentage of those in this time frame, their birthdays in this time. I'm wondering, I don't know how many of you have a birthday around this time. And Angie and I both have a birthday in January, and but that doesn't register here because it's later on. But there's clearly a lot of dreamers around the world where they're either talking about birthday in their dream material or they're actually having a birthday. So that's really interesting. All right. Next, let's look at the memes. And in reality, we should probably just put the end. I separated that out. So for example, like the word leaves, that has everything to do with the Venus conjoining with the sun. The social anxiety or the separation anxiety that we mentioned at the beginning, that's clearly here in the DreamBot, but it's almost like an experiential collapse. That's sort of what it looks like. I mean, you have the blue arrows that say, look, it's big. It's the word sight, museum, interesting, experience, remembered. It's giant and party. It's an experience, and it's experience that you can see with your own eyes. So we're like looking around in awe, sort of feels like an awe. But then you have high, low, you've got upstairs, but mostly like crash and downward, laying, cut down, fell, that kind of stuff. But combined with the green arrows is sort of the end. So downward, the end, sort of a collapse sort of feeling, And look, so it's maybe the majesty of a collapse. I don't know. And is this predicting any time frame? Dreambots sort of predict anywhere from about 2 weeks to 6 weeks. But again, these are not intentional dreams, so the accuracy is going to be a lot lower in my experience. But anyway, the collective is sort of looking like it's seeing somewhat of a crash, of a downward spiral, if you will, and it's big, giant, and it's a party, and it's interesting. And museum is an interesting word there because it implies old stuff, and maybe it's the collapse of the old. Well, that's what we expect with Uranus and Taurus, by the way, is a changing of the material world. It's not the Pluto in Taurus, but it is Uranus, and Uranus is the change agent. So it's a crash of the old, possibly. Let me read through the second linguistic set. Just let me read it and see what you think. Exit, maybe, cut, palace, fell, lady. And I don't know. And to me, it just sort of rings that royal tone of like the queen or something. Exit, maybe, cut, palace, fell, lady. Interesting. Does she get hurt? Does she get cut down? Maybe neither. Maybe more. Who knows? All right, let's get into the astrology, eh? Here's January. All right, let's talk about retrogrades first. The first one up, it's not this week. Now, this week is in between the goalposts, these black vertical lines. And there are a lot of reds here. One of them is the Pluto and Venus that we've been talking about. That sort of ages out and ends this week. Now, that does return when Venus goes direct, but that returns more around February, end of February, beginning of March. But the big thing this week, probably the biggest thing, is the Venus Conjunct Sun, which is the Venus Combust. Goes exact 8th or 9th. And then further down the road in January, right in the middle, you got Mercury going retrograde around the 15th. And then shortly after, and Mercury will actually go so far as to go back into Capricorn before it returns to direct, and then back into Aquarius again. Now, Uranus is going to go direct a little bit later, and this is going to actually delay the decay of Saturn square Uranus. So this will keep that square going. That big, long, red block here indicates that square, and that square gets sustained even longer. It's going to age out sometime in March. And then the sun will go into Aquarius as well later on in the month. Thursday the 6th. Here we go. Venus and the sun. Now, the first thing I do, we're looking at the degrees, and we're only about 4 degrees away from each other. The next thing, and I know they're converging, so Venus is retrograde and the sun is direct. The sun always goes direct, by the way. And then I look for the elevation, and I go down here, and I see that the Venus and the sun are not in the same elevation, meaning that they're going to still have some separation as they pass each other. And so Venus is, in my estimation, Venus is not going to get to the Cazimi status. Cazimi is where it gets uber strong. It gets like right in the eye of the sun within 17 minutes of each other. And so that energy, whatever the sun is shining at that moment, is basically exploding with that planet's energy. So in this case, it would have been Venus gets uber strong. So peace and harmony and love and relating to each other for that moment gets extra strong. But that's not the case this time. In my estimation, we're looking at just a weakened Venus, and it's going to get super weakened as they match up perfectly together, but they're going to be on a different elevation. So combust means everything with Venus gets harder to feel beautiful, harder to express beauty, hard to relate to others, easy to feel alone, easy to grapple for love, attention, acceptance, hard to find peace, hard to create peace, hard to be peaceful. That all that kind of Venus energy is harder. When you go look at artwork with this, if you go look at artwork, some of you try to go do that, go to a museum or whatever and see if you can notice the difference of your perceptions when Venus is combust. When you go look at art, hard to find the beauty in it, hard to appreciate it. Possibly, maybe go to a concert. Maybe there might be some, you start noticing the nuances in the music where before you might not have noticed the errors. Okay. Okay, so the rest of the energy is still big. You've got Uranus square Saturn still there with only 2 degrees. And if you're new here, we've been talking about this for over a year, but we've got the status quo Saturn. It keep everything the same versus Uranus in the material world of Taurus is we want to change everything. Everything changes and changes fast. And so they're at odds with each other. The keep it the same versus change everything is at odds, and that pressure makes it a focus. And you can see this in protests and everyone getting out in the streets. You can even see it in their attempts to censor people. That's the Saturn side. That's the should do this, the compliance side. And this is the freedom side. Screw you. I just want to do my thing. Let me do my thing. That's the Uranus side. All right. So now, but we also have Mercury coming in here, at least for the time being, until next week, next CIRF week, where it's going direct. So making a square with Uranus. And now we have this pressure mind, because Mercury is mind, communications, short-term travel. All those things are pressured with those same freedom, change-oriented insights from Uranus. That just makes the square makes it a pressure point. There's this pressure in it once, and it's going to feel like more discomfort and pressure, conflict, internal conflict, external conflict, all that. And then you got the external conflict over here with Mars and Neptune. So there's a lot of pressure, but not nearly as much as we had in 2021. So this is actually a little bit lighter than we saw before, strangely. See if you guys notice that. I think we got attuned to that level of pressure and conflict. I bet even when we see a lot of these squares, and I'll show you one of these days this week where there's tons of squares with the moon, where it is. Even on that day, I bet you feel, some pressure and conflict, but nothing compared to what we saw throughout majority of 2021. That'll be interesting. Maybe we just got used to it. Perhaps, but test me if I'm wrong. Okay. But with this pressure here, this is Mars square Neptune with the moon coming in there. So the next day, moon will be over Neptune, making your dreams really emotional and making your emotions really dreamy and create fantasy and create illusion for you and make you want to escape them and all that. All that pressure needs to escape, and Neptune just happens to be the planet of escapism and drug use, is one of the archetypes, one of the meanings there. So what this means is, so Mars is a doer and, get out there and do stuff and do something. And Neptune is a planet of illusion and escape. So you potentially have this easy. It's not easy. I mean, it's a pressure, but a pressure to escape, because Mars, not very patient and needs to go do something now. And Neptune shows this little, fantasy or illusion. And so you're doing stuff based on illusion, or you're getting more disinfo. And then if that's a discomfort, you're going to want to escape it. And this is the escape. This is the most problematic escape alignment in the entire zodiac here is Mars square Neptune. And by the way, you've got moon coming in here. So the first 2 days, January 6th, January 7th, It's extra emotional, and Mars wants to escape. So watch out for escapism on these first 2 days of the CIRF week, January 6th, January 7th. Don't escape. Make sure you got your values. Make sure you stop. Take a 5-second break before you act. Don't be too impulsive. And make sure that you're not solving a discomfort by your behavior. You want to do that all the time, but especially on January 6th and 7th. Why? Because here you can see moon goes right past Neptune and creates that extra emotional square, needing a release or needing an escape. So watch out for that. Now, interesting how the moon and Neptune create a sextile with that problematic Venus combust. We're 2 degrees away from full up climax of the combust. And that weakening Venus, that weakening yin energy or love and harmony, what does that look like? Is that extra conflict? Maybe that alone, even though there's not as many squares, maybe it returns to that feeling of 2021 again, where everyone's at each other's throats, everyone's protesting one way or the other, rioting. You got both sides of that Saturn and Uranus rioting, and I'd say it's more planned and agendized by the Saturn side, but whatever. But I'm thinking that energy temporarily comes back because we have the lack of harmony. We have the lack of understanding, the lack of relating, lack of peace, unfortunately, with Venus combust. But there's an opportunity there, and you're going to get that through your dreams. So even though your dreams will probably be much more contentious, maybe war related, maybe fighting related, there's an opportunity in those. So don't shy away from them. Look at them a little bit deeper because of this sextile, that green sextile in there. This represents an opportunity. All right, now on to Saturday. And I went ahead and got you the exact time. This is the evening of January 8th, 6:47 Central Time. On Saturday is when Venus and the Sun go exact conjunction. And remember, they're in a different elevation as they go past each other. So I'm calling Venus still in a combust. So maximum weakness, absolute maximum weakness right here for Venus. Climax of aloneness, lacking love, the maximum of yearning for acceptance with other people. It's a people alignment, but Venus is weakened to the maximum. So you're feeling exposed to that energy. Now with that conjunction, by the way, that conjunction just happens to enter a conjunction. They're 8 degrees away from Pluto. And obviously Venus is going to continue to go away from Pluto, but the Sun's going to go towards Pluto. And then, so your ego is going to start to get a little tumbled, death and rebirth cycle for ego. We're going to talk about that here in a few days. But the Venus combust has a trine over to Uranus. So we're going to toss a few surprises into the mix while we are relationally challenged. Uranus is going to throw insights, uniqueness, freedom. It's going to throw those changes into the mix. That should be really interesting. And it's easy too, because it's a trine. So those come easy. And that easy in, trines, green, it doesn't signify good. It's not a good thing, but it's not a bad thing either. It's just easy. It's just easy to throw wrenches into your struggle with aloneness. Simple as that. Surprises. That's what Uranus does really great at. Just when you think you've got Uranus figured out, a surprise comes in. Sunday, the 9th, look at all those squares. That's what I was talking about earlier. This is the max pressure day. This is Sunday the 9th, because the moon makes an alignment to where there's 3 squares of Pluto, Sun, and Venus. And then that's not even all. There's got 2 more squares with Uranus. So there's a ton of squares here check this out. Check and see if Sunday feels the most pressure, the most conflicted, the most, I don't know, needs, the most emotional needs. Emotional pressure is in the air because Moon is making most of these squares, 3 of these squares. So it's emotional pressure. And it's who we are. It's our identity. And it's how we relate to others. There's a lot of pressure in here. So there's the emphasis. As if Venus Combust wasn't enough. They're still 1 degrees, even though they're departing each other now. Monday the 10th, we have, you can see here's 2 groupings in squares with each other. So now the Moon is going to be entering a conjunction with Uranus. So that change side gets emotionally charged. You're going to see freedom lovers that are really now not going to take anything. They're going to really go out and be passionate about change and freedom. And then you're going to see your thoughts and rational logic around things of why to keep things the same. So these are pitching off to each other. So you got mega change squared to mega stay the same. So nurturing change versus rigid Saturn, rigid thoughts that don't change versus emotions that do change. And the nurturing change is the maternal aspect of the Moon. Oh, these archetypes are big, amazing. Rarely do they get this big, this often and frequent. We're just in that time frame. You guys know that because you've been watching. Tuesday the 11th, we got the Moon now with Uranus making some nice trines, easy going trines, and our squares are down to 3. So the emphasis now is more on the easy energy. And you got the nurturing change with Moon over Uranus. Easily flows to aid in the ego's relational goals. That's Capricorn. Identity seeking with goal-oriented relationships. That's the Venus in Capricorn. It's the Capricorn energy. And afraid, Capricorns can tend to get a little bit skittish and looking for threats and, always on guard. And that energy goes back to the separation anxiety on the lower right of your screen, frantic on edge separation anxiety. This actually trine looks like a positive thing, but this is actually going to make that energy even more. Because if you got change and you've got emotional change feeding into your identity and your relationships, that's going to even make things more fearful, especially for that Capricorn energy. So that would be easy energy, not a good thing because it's increasing the separation anxiety on Tuesday the 11th. Wednesday the 12th, last day of our CIRF report. Now you can see how we're 4 degrees away from Pluto and the Sun. And this is the ego transformation begins. This can also be the deep, that's the Pluto, deep subconscious power becomes available for the ego. And because it's all Capricorn, achievement oriented, goal oriented, and get things done. Climb the mountain, climb your hurdles. You expect, as Capricorn energy and the Sun in Capricorn, we expect hardships. We expect shoes to drop. We expect hurdles to be planted in front of us by the ruling planet Saturn, who's in a square with Uranus and pissed off. So just to expect some upheaval in your ego journey. Dark night of the soul for some. And it's very goal-oriented. Might be fearful too, but you don't have to be afraid. It's just a part of astrology. Happens once a year. All right. Boom. The I-Ching. The influence for the first full week in... Oh my gosh, look at that. I put 2021. That's a mistake. Obviously 2022. It's hexagram 30, clinging like fire. Everything that radiates light or love is dependent on something else. So we're highlighting, this is the influence, it's highlighting our interdependence on other things, other people, each thing to the other. Awareness of your attachment to other people is the key that opens the door to knowing your true place in the world. No human is an island. And man, when Venus is combust like that for the whole week, this goes hyperdrive. That's crazy how these I-Chings read out. Crazy. So we have 2 lines to read. Line 5 says the clarity of vision can empower you to penetrate the veil of life's illusions, which can bring good fortunes when such a vision is accompanied by a change of heart and release of delusion. It speaks to these other alignments like the Neptune and Mars. Line 6, discipline that is too severe. Discipline that is too severe. Can you think of some examples of how that's the case in today's world? Like a punishment that is too cruel fails to achieve its true purpose. Woohoo! Yes, and that is my preliminary. That is my foreshadowing to the solution, which is next. The I-Ching, when we do the change, I told you it's going to be exciting. Here's the foreshadowing. Like a punishment that is too cruel, fails to achieve its true purpose. That's the foreshadowing. Seek the underlying cause of difficulties and take strong action to cut off negativity at its roots. And taking strong action, you ready for this? Let's get into the solution. You're going to love it. Take strong action is revolution. This is the solution now. So this hexagram refers to a time in the cycle of human affairs when things are stirring up and a hint of dramatic change is in the air. Revolutionary change ushers in a period when chaos arises from order. Let's remember that not all order is good and not all chaos is bad. The hexagram reminds us to have the courage to radically change and renew the way we bring ourselves to life. In this way, you can channel chaos to your cause and unleash a new power on behalf of the good. That, to me, sent shivers down my spine when I put in the change lines to find revolution. And that, remember, we've had revolution in 2021, but it was more of an influence. This is a solution. This is behaviors. This is the I-Ching telling you this is a revolutionary time for your behaviors. So this is now directly in your interaction with the outer world. So the biggest energy, biggest influence this week is the Venus combust, and it went exact at 18 degrees 43 minutes in Capricorn, which puts us at hexagram 54 in the rave. And again, are you guys getting tired of the Sag? We need the Sag, though. We're used to it. We're used to trying to increase our Sagittarius traits. And for this week, it's going to help us with the revolutionary skill sets. So the gate of ambition, this gate fuels the drive to transform. There's the revolution again. Even the rave agrees. Now, wait for this. The marrying maiden is line 4, enlightenment and endarkenment. That's when Venus combust goes exact. The interaction in its mundane social context, isn't that a crazy social context? But also one's mystical and cosmic relationships. So it's almost like the Venus aspect weakens around the 3D version of relationships and allows us to finally see the interdependence and the spiritual side of our relationships, the cosmic relationships. So here's what line 4 says. Let's see here. In the most mystical of positions, there is neither an exaltation nor a detriment, for in truth they are the same, the Alpha and Omega, the end and the beginning. There is no description possible. Each planet will manifest this energy uniquely with absolutely no guarantee that its effects will even be perceived. However, the potential is always there. The fuel for transformation at its purest level. No polarity, no specific planetary ascent. Whew, that is huge. And by the way, when you read the decrement or detriment side, it's exactly the same text. So you can rewind and listen to that again. These I-Chings are very, very powerful. And basically they combine enlightenment and endarkenment together into the same space. The end is the beginning is the end. The alpha and the omega are the same. There's no polarity. There's no yin and yang. It's the same. It's all one. So let's get into the solution now. And here we go. Separation anxiety to its highest. Oh, let me make sure. All right. Yeah. Okay, here we go. January 6th through January 12th. The overall energy is frantic on edge. You can see this little baby holding on to mama's leg. It's yearning for freedom. That's the irony here. The I-Ching says although it's yearning for freedom, but you're heightened aware of your interdependence. And that's where the separation anxiety comes from. It's dark to light because the Venus is coming conjunct with the sun. It's clarity of vision, penetrating the veil, huge opportunity for freedom. Okay. And now, here is the triangulated solution. And remember, we've got 49 I-Ching says revolution. The rave says enlightenment / endarkenment. The fuel for transformation, no polarity. And Sagittarius is again still here, still our active sidereal solution is expansive and wise and wide-ranging, optimistic, philosophical. Spirituality is at a premium in these last few weeks. So here we go. Ready? A time of jinking and jiving around hypnotized masses who may or may not be starting to awaken. Their awakening is not up to you, but recognize how much you yearn for it. The revolution in the I-Ching is equally matched spiritually in both the rave and sidereal. So it's not just out in this 3D world revolution, and that's how we're going to interpret the combo. The solution is a tight overlap around boldly and radically changing the world, but starting within you and your immediate environment. If homeostasis wins, and homeostasis is the real psychological concept, mainly in family therapy, that says that no matter how much therapy you throw at something, the family unit is going to try to stay the same, even if it's dysfunctional. So if homeostasis wins, it indicates we aren't changing enough of ourselves. I'll start slowing down here and pausing. So think about that. Throughout this week, if you see homeostasis or just the same to continue, then that means you haven't done enough inner work on yourself and possibly the immediate environment. You don't need to go change the world. That's not your task. The task is to change your entire inner world. Chaos is the confirming indicator. That's according to the rave. Using your best expansive and optimistic Sagittarius traits, gallop long and hard to the place that radically moves you to new spiritual levels. Chaos comes from the unfamiliar. So if you're not seeing chaos, it could mean that you're not doing enough of your own revolution. Enlightenment is an illusion. In this space, there is no polarity. Enlightenment and endarkenment is the same because there is no judgment. If judgment clarifies your new space, either you aren't ready for the higher level, or it's a specific stepping stone for your specific learning. Okay? If judgment clarifies your new space, if you get to a revolutionary place, And it could be good or bad. I don't like those words even, but it could feel pleasant or it could feel discontented. But in either one of those scenarios, it's judgment. And because there's judgment means that you haven't reached that higher level of enlightenment or endarkenment. It's the same thing because there is no polarity, and the only way to get there is a lack of judgment. So noticing that space, and it might be very chaotic, that would be a great confirmer, and yet you remain calm. You remain an observer. You remain judgmentless. So while there's learning to take place from the judgment, from the resistance, then learn that specific lesson and move on and be grateful. The idea here wasn't to get too complex and not to get you towards enlightenment, which is also endarkenment according to the rave. The idea here is to facilitate your inner revolution. So the mantra this week for you, the recommended mantra is my revolution is now. I put in now. I didn't mean that. My revolution is now. Okay. And Sag is wonderful sidereal solution for this in action because it's impulsive, but it's the fire warrior as well. Sag has some arrows in its disposal. What does he do with those arrows? Just something to think about in that archetype. But the point is, we can go wise, we can go expansive, we can go anywhere. As far as the eye can see, as far as the arrow can be shot, we can go. And so it's unafraid. Sag is unafraid, just needs to see across the horizon, and it needs no attachments. Perfect timing, right? Because Venus is combust and weakened. And so our attachments are weakened, or our awareness of our attachments are weakened. So it's a great time to use your best Sag and practice those traits if you're not good at them. If you have any Sagittarius in your chart, then use that part of you to accentuate this revolution. This is an important time. That's why I'm spending a little bit more time on the solution slide. But it's about boldly and radically changing the part of you that needs changed. And in doing so, creates chaos, either perceived or real, and that becomes the confirming indicator that something is being done. And then Sagittarius goes to encapsulate and goes to achieve those ends and finish off with a very spiritual, transcendent view. And some of us will tap into, maybe not stay there, but you'll tap into, without any judgment, no polarity, you'll tap into this place and feel what it's like. Enlightenment, endarkenment. And you'll know that with all those indicators that we talked about. And with indifference and pure awareness. And it might stay there for a couple seconds until your mind jumps into judgment again, and then you're kicked out. All right, so try that out. And let me know if you got any questions. I appreciate each and every one of you. We're in January 2022. Let's make this a great world, a great year. And we do that starting now. We don't have to be patient for others, do we? Not this week anyway. We can just go fix ourselves. We can radically revolutionize our world. And we do that each individual at a time, and do it with confidence, wisdom, spirituality, and tell me what it's like. Give me your thoughts on this. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And thank you for your shares. I appreciate every one of you. Again, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2022. Let's get this year started off fantastically with My Revolution is Now. All right. See you guys. Love and light. Peace.